Becky stars Lulu Wilson and Kevin James. So Becky was released this past weekend, and it was one of those movies, just kind of like with The Hunt, that really wasn't on my radar. It was just because, some Facebook ads suddenly start playing it randomly that, I even knew it existed. But now it's on VOD, video on demand, because, all the theaters still shut down. And since I really don't have pretty much anything else to do, I decided, hey, why don't I check this out? So Becky is about this girl named Becky, and she's going through a pretty tough time in her life. Her mom just recently passed away, and since then she's been a little bit more estranged and tense with her father. And to just, complicate that relationship a little bit more, her father decides to bring her to their family house, invite his new girlfriend over, and tell her that they're getting married after being together for like 1 year. So to say the least, Becky's having a pretty bad day. And to make things even more complicated, these neo-Nazis led by Kevin James come to her house, kidnap her father and his fiance, looking for this key I guess he left behind at some point. But he can't find it. It turns out Becky has it, so now Becky has to figure out how to outwit these, crazy murderous neo-Nazis and possibly save her new family in the process. Now, after describing that plot to you, you're probably thinking, hey, it's just, Home Alone with Nazis, right? It's just Home Alone with Nazis, No. No. Get that out your head. Don't do it. Coming into this movie thinking that it's just, a little bit more serious Home Alone would be a very, very, very tragic mistake on your part. If I were to compare this to Home Alone, let's say Kevin McAllister, he's the Batman or Spider-Man of that movie. He puts down the criminals, get them arrested, and then, they come back for some more sequels. On the other hand, Becky would be more like Frank Castle, the Punisher.
You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down. It's permanent. I make sure that they don't make it out on the street again. I take pride in that.
She's no nonsense, all business, and unforgiving. So from there, I can just tell you that this movie is very violent and very bloody. If I could compare it to anything, I guess I would compare it to The Hunt, with its hyper violence. While The Hunt was more kind of like a dark comedy where the violence is kind of just used as a way of, telling that story. With the violence in Becky, it's less of trying to get a laugh out of you and more trying to get that reaction where you go, ooh, God. I mean, even with the fact with these guys being murderous neo-Nazis, there's still moments in this movie when Becky is just slaughtering these guys where you're just like, yeah, they have to go, but do you have to do them like that? Like, don't get me wrong, these are like despicable human beings, They're really demonstrated in the movie that they're one of the beyond redemption types. They really are kind of morally bankrupt, but you get a sense very early on in this confrontation that Becky isn't just simply taking them out. She's taking joy in taking them out. You understand that she is probably as psychotic, if not more psychotic than these guys. Because when you first meet her, you just think she's kind of a bratty teenager, bucking against her father and doing all this petty stuff. But as soon as stuff hits the fan, she quickly shifts from, petty teenager to, blood-hungry psychopath. And she does it pretty well. Lulu Wilson, I mean, we're getting a lot of good kid actors lately. Like, we've come a far way since, young little Anakin Skywalker. Now, Lulu Wilson, you might know her from mostly horror movie stuff like Annabelle and Ouija 2, which surprisingly enough, those were sequels to actually bad movies. So, hey, she has some street cred there. But the way that Becky is presented in this movie, you're on her side just by the default that she's the main character and, I guess these are murderous Nazis. But I have to say, if you feel any type of like real empathy for Becky, like, yeah, I can relate to her beyond like, the dead mother stuff, you might need psychiatric help because Becky is not just any little girl. She is truly a sociopath, which makes me nervous because I've worked with kids and I've met kids with her attitude sometimes, where, they just don't care and they just want to buck against authority. And in that, yeah, it's like, it's annoying, I just thought that I was like, oh, you just have those rebellious kids. But now I'm going to be going back to those kids worried about, if I say the wrong thing, they're going to come to my house and slit my throat in the middle of the night. So thanks for that, Becky. So going into Kevin James' character, his name is Dominic. I was actually pretty surprised that Kevin James, the king of queens, Paul Blart Mall Cop, could just switch from being Mr. Funny Man to, well, this pretty terrifying neo-Nazi. Like, he does it so well that, makes me kind of worried, like, Kevin, you okay, man? I know some method actors, they get a little bit too much into the role to the, We cool, right? But no, he kills it. He does pretty well. But there's a certain point in the movie where all that, menace and threatening feeling you get from Kevin James' character, it kind of slightly starts to subside the more Nazis get killed by Becky, this little girl. They had a pretty strong start. They seem pretty, intelligent and calculating. But there's a certain point where you're like, these guys aren't really good at what they do. But then I can rationalize it in my head that, well, I highly doubt these Nazis really factored in the idea of a psychotic little girl going out of her way to butcher them alive. So from that standpoint, I kind of buy it. Joel McHale's also in the movie. You might know him from Community and other stuff like that. Mostly funny guy too. And he's in there and he's okay. He just plays Becky's dad and he plays his dad part. Nothing more than that. I mean, he's not really a standout role like Kevin James and Lulu Wilson. It's their movie. And while I will say I mostly enjoyed this movie, there are some things I'm like, I would have liked if you explored this a little bit more. Namely, the MacGuffin of the movie, this key. This whole conflict is started over Kevin James' obsession with getting this key. It seems like it's something important. It goes to something. But let me let you know ahead of time, the movie doesn't really focus on the key that much. It's literally a prop. It's just the thing there to kind of get the whole plot going. It holds importance, but the movie, it doesn't treat it that way. It's just there so we can have a movie. It's a minor nitpick. It's just something I noticed, but I don't think it detracts from the movie that much. And going back to the violence, I have to say, if you watch this movie, if you're squeamish, do not watch this movie. I mean, there's not constant violent scenes, and it's not like people getting butchered left or right. The movie's only an hour 30 minutes, so they only can do but so much. But when it does happen, it is painful, it is cruel, and it's gory. So if you cannot handle that, especially towards the end of the movie, I would say maybe skip this. But at the end of the day, I think Becky is a well-made movie. I mean, again, it's an hour 30 minutes, a low budget, but it comes to do what it wants to do and then it leaves. It doesn't stay longer than it needs to. And the way it ends, it's fitting for how they set up Becky throughout this movie. And if for some reason they made a sequel, then they kind of leave it a little open for maybe they could. I think I'd be willing to see it. I don't know, maybe they make Becky this new kind of female Punisher, where she's not exactly looking for justice, she's just looking for a reason to kill people. And you know what, I might be entertained by that. I don't know. Maybe I'm sick too. But guys, that's why I think. Tell me what you thought about Becky if you saw it. If you found this review helpful, like, subscribe, share, and until next time, take care.